Tuwela Manibudnik. Tuwela Wakanapadnik. Laladadlo, Kamaka, Yarakumanindi. Ninamani. Ninamani is the words of hello of the Ghana people. And your response would hopefully be Mani I being good or Mani Yaka if you're not so good. So, Nina Mani? Nei Chaya. So, Nai Ghana, Burka Mankalankla, Madawachunga Ghana Mina, Nai Nari Kamatpi Maricha, Nai Wangadi Mani Budni, Gani Yatana, here in Diata, Tandendanga, Tandawama, Karawirapara, Gadiyata. Welcome to the lands of the Ghana people or the Meena people or the Adelaide Plains people. Today, you sit upon the land of the Kangaroo Plains being Adelaide Oval. And behind me is known as the Red Gum Forest River or Torrens River. And further to the north, we have the place called the Emu Place. Adelaide is known as Tandendanga, being the dreaming place of the big red kangaroo. And the cloak that I wear is the cloak of that kangaroo. But what's really unique about Adelaide itself is the centre of Adelaide is Victoria Square. Well, it's actually not a square. It's actually the shape of the Ghana shield, which is this shield here. So we have these three wonderful elements being the shield, the emu, and the kangaroo. And there's a bit of a theme here because where do we see those three elements? We actually see them on our national emblem, don't we, or crest. And so South Australia was known as Bambabumbaya, being the conference centre of our nations, First Nations people. And so all our First Nations people would come to Adelaide to celebrate and to share in corroboree or to knowledge or artefacts or all of those wonderful things of our people sharing, which is really important, and which is why you've really come today, is to share in this wisdom and knowledge. And so a welcome isn't just saying, are you well, when you come to a place like the words tell us. It is saying hello. But more importantly, it's asking you, where have you been and what are you doing? Because your face tells you where you've been, but your heart tells you where to go. And so a welcome was really important. And so today I want to share a little bit of history. Those particularly from South Australia would hopefully know this information. But South Australia was a unique place. Why? Because we don't have convicts that settled this place. We were a free colony. Now, I want to take you back, and it's wonderful to have the governor here today because I'm going to show you one of the governor's flags, which people don't know. And if you get the opportunity to go to the beautiful home of the governor, you'll see this image a little bit better than the way I've drawn this image, but you'll see this image in his beautiful ballroom on his stained glass window. But there was a special image because this is a flag that the governor had back in 1876 to 1904. And the image here is not only just of the Union Jack, but you'll see something very interesting in the middle. There's actually two people. One was an Aboriginal person. The second person is a person of Britannia. Now, what's interesting is that the Aboriginal person is sitting on a rock throne. The person from Britannia is reaching out to be welcomed by the Aboriginal person. But what's even more interesting is there is a kangaroo carved in the rock above the Aboriginal person's head. And as we know, Adelaide is known as the Kangaroo Place. So it's an interesting flag. But it goes even further because it was actually the common seal of South Australia. So all the legal documents that South Australia had in those early days were stamped with that particular seal. And so even the Constitution of South Australia has that common seal on it. Now, just to help you, because I'm sure you know this, but the Union Jack is made up of 3 nations, being St. Patrick, St. George and St. Andrew, which I'm sure you know is Northern Ireland, Scotland and England. Now, and I'm sure you also know that it was 1836 that South Australia was formed, and we know that because our basketball team, the Adelaide 36ers, is called the 36ers for that very reason. Now, you also would know the king of the day, because that's the main street of Adelaide, being King William Street, and you would know the queen of the day because the city is known as Adelaide, therefore it was Queen Adelaide. But there was a governor, the first governor, he wore a bit of a funny hat. He wore a hat a bit like this. His name was Governor Highmarsh. Now, he set up his home in Highmarsh there, which was a significant place for the Aboriginal people because it was a place known as the place of the high or the chest. And even the Christian people knew that it was a very important place because many churches will be found in that particular area. But what's even more important is that obviously 2 key gentlemen, being Matthew Flinders, who mapped out all of Australia and particularly South Australia and named Australia to give its name of the Great Southern Land. But also we had another gentleman, Colonel Light, who really mapped out Adelaide, and he did that in an interesting way. Some people say the land spoke to him. Some people say that Mullawilla Burka, the last of the Aboriginal people, spoke to him, as well as the fact he himself was a clever man, because he not only put Adelaide in the north, south, west, east directions and put the green belts in, but he actually designed the Adelaide city itself in the shape of the kangaroo, and North Adelaide in the shape of the emu. And as I said earlier, Victoria Square being the shield, which is really amazing. And so Colonel Light, he was an interesting character. But as we know, it being a free colony, not a convict colony, people came, and how did they come? Well, they came in boats, didn't they? Just like these ones. Now, what's even further interesting is when people came, they like to, mark their territory, and they did that by putting their flags upon the nation. But when they came to particularly South Australia and Australia itself, because our people have been welcoming people to this nation for thousands of years, and one of the things that we've never said is go home. That's because you don't leave. No, it's not true. It's because you'll never see me at the end of a conference. I'm always at the beginning, so I can't say goodbye. But largely, we don't actually have a word for goodbye. We have a word for see you later, which is very interesting, and I will say those words. But the flag that they found when they came to this nation was a different flag. It was this flag. The flag of the Aboriginal people, being the red being the earth, the black being the people, and the yellow, not just the sun, the giver of life and hope, but really you. Because when we extend our hand out, we can say, Nina Mani, being welcome, because that's what our people have always done, is welcome people to this nation, whether it be the English, whether it be the French, or whether it be the Chinese, or whether it be the Dutch as well. And so it's an interesting place. Our people believe strongly that when you walk this land, it will connect with you, and therefore it is your home. And that's what a welcome does, because the spirit people of my ancestors have been called upon here today to bless you, to bring that goodness, to send away that badness, but to remind you that when it is your home, we look after it. And if you look after it, it will look after you. And that's very important to understand. And so as you can see, history, our people were always about coming together. And it was demonstrated by that king. It was demonstrated in his letter, the king's letter being the letters patent. And he wrote those words. He wanted the land to be owned and occupied and shared by the Aboriginal people. But sadly, because he died 6 months after writing the King's letter, sadly, that was lost. And sadly, that letter never reached the shores of South Australia until 1904, which was after Federation. I myself was never an Australian citizen until the 27th of May of 1967. What's interesting, I see that you're using an app called Nexus, and in that particular period, Nexus was known to be the campaign. What many people don't know is that Aboriginal people did get counted in the census and therefore becoming Australian citizens in 67. But the second part of that referendum was they wanted to increase the number of House of Representatives, which got a no vote. But really, when you think about it, it got a yes vote. Why? Because if you increase the number of population, you increase the number of senators and House of Representatives anyway. So in actual fact, it was a success for the government anyway. Maybe not for the Aboriginal people. But I've gone on far too long. And so therefore, I hope today and the rest of this conference is about knowledge, it's about truth, it's about sharing, and it's about voices, because that's what this year of NAIDOC was all about. But I want to leave these words, which is Mayunjiga, Nachu Yukandaya, Nachu Yakandaya, Padnia Duwadu, which is saying we can walk, we can sit, but please observe, please listen to the land. When you do those things, it brings cultures together. It gives us the ability not only to be brothers and sisters, but to walk and sit upon that in harmony and to do it together. And that's what this is all about. It's about doing things together. So, as I said earlier, Nakata, see you later, and Nechaya, thank you very much for having me.